The sun rose over the grassy hills, surrounding the village of Moyo, bathing the thatched roof huts in a warm golden glow. Nala awoke with excitement thrumming through her veins. Today was the start of the harvest festival, her favorite time of year. The harvest was always plentiful in Moyo, and the week-long celebrations brought everyone together. In joyful song, dance, and feasting, Nala leapt out of bed and rushed outside, her bare feet pressing into the cool earth. She breathed deeply, invigorated by the earthy scents of the morning. As daughter of Chief Bokamoso, it was Nala's honor to lead the pre-dawn song to welcome the first day of festivals. She began the melodic chant taught to her by her grandmother, her rich voice ringing out into the valley. One by one, villagers emerged from their huts and joined the song. Nala grinned as harmony swelled around her, vibrating through her heart. When the sun peeked over the distant hills, Nala returned home. She swept aside the decorative beaded curtain and found her mother Aya preparing breakfast. Aya smiled at her daughter, pride shining in her warm brown eyes. "Are you ready for the feast today?" I asked. The entire village has been buzzing with anticipation for weeks. Nala's mouth watered as she imagined the bounty to come. Goat meat stewed with sweet potatoes, corn harvested ripe from the stalk, greens picked fresh from the fields. Her favorites were the honey cakes dusted with cinnamon and crushed nuts. "I can't wait," Nala said. "Do you need help cooking?" "No, dear one," I replied. "Today you are the guest of honor. Go get dressed and enjoy the festivities. Tonight we celebrate under the full moon." Nala ducked back into her room and opened the chest containing her ceremonial dresses. She chose an emerald green dress made of richly patterned kente cloth, with matching beaded necklaces and bracelets. She tied a vibrant wrap around her waist and slipped on leather sandals. After weaving her thick curly hair into banter knots, she declared herself ready, stepping outside. Nala was delighted to see villagers already gathered around the massive bonfire in the center of Moyo. Children chased each other, shrieking joyfully. Musicians tuned their instruments, drums, rattles, and xylophones carved from wood. The air was rich with the smells of Nala's favorite dishes, simmering over open fires. But most special of all, she saw Chief Bokamoso seated on an ornate chair made of animal hides and giraffe bones. He was resplendent in his ceremonial leopard pelt and headdress. When he saw Nala, he broke into a wide grin. She ran and hugged him tightly. "Ah, the festival begins," Bokamoso bellowed. "Let the feasting commence." The villagers cheered and began passing around heaping plates of food and homebrewed millet beer. Nala savored the spicy stew and sweet honey cakes. She watched performers reenact the story of how Moyo was founded. With soaring leaps and rhythmic drums, her heart swelled with gratitude and love for her people. As darkness fell, Bokamoso gestured for silence. "My friends, let us thank the spirits of our ancestors who watch over Moyo," he proclaimed. "May our harvest keep us strong until the next." Just then, a low rumble echoed from the distance. The ground shook slightly. Alarm rushed through Nala's veins. What was happening? "It is Kilimanjaro," Bokamoso said, gazing up at the mighty volcano looming behind their village. It was ringed in an ominous red glow. "She warns of her awakening. We must hurry." Panic erupted. Women scooped up children, while men herded livestock away from the volcano. Nala reached for her father's hand, but a terrible noise split the air. Kilimanjaro exploded, spewing flaming molten rock high into the night sky. Searing heat scorched Nala's skin. Curia, the village elder, pulled her away to safety. She wept hot tears, searching desperately for her parents through the smoke and chaos. A wall of lava surged through the center of Moyo, igniting huts. Acrid smoke filled Nala's lungs, making her cough violently. "Keep moving," Curia urged, half dragging Nala away from the inferno consuming their village. They fled into the hills, the screams of the dying echoing in Nala's ears, her mind swirling in shock. She turned for one last glimpse of Moyo. Lava swarmed like a roiled nest of angry snakes, torching everything in its path. The place she had called home all her life was now an epicenter of fire and brimstone. By morning, the survivors gathered to take stock. Half the villagers had perished. burned alive or choked on volcanic ash. Sobs rose around Nala as people searched for lost loved ones. Her dear friend Zola clung to her young son, wailing for her husband. Nala froze as she noticed her parents were not there. "Baba, Mama," she screamed hoarsely. There was no reply. They were gone. For the first time in her 16 years, Nala was completely alone. She fell to her knees, hot tears streaking the dust on her cheeks. It felt like the earth was breaking open to swallow her whole. Curia crouched beside her, laying a hand on her shoulder. "I am so very sorry, child," Curia said mournfully, "but you must be strong now. Our people need a leader to guide them." Nala's eyes widened in dismay. How could she lead when she could barely breathe, when her heart was shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces? Curia squeezed her shoulder gently. "You are the chief's daughter. You have his courage and wisdom in your spirit. You will find her." "Why?" Nala straightened up, wiping the tears from her eyes. Curia was right. She owed it to her people to be strong. "Very well. Let us gather what we can and find a new home." The survivors foraged what few belongings remained and began the long, solemn walk away from the devastation. Nala led them higher into the hills, seeking signs of fresh water and fertile land. Each night, she sang songs passed down from her ancestors, trying to inspire hope in her people. After days of walking, they came upon a remote plateau. A small lake shimmered in the valley below, ringed by fruit trees and bushes laden with berries. "We shall rebuild here," Nala declared. The work was backbreaking, with no men left. The women and children had to construct new huts, dig latrines, and till the tough soil. Each morning, Nala was the first to rise and take up her machete. Determined to prove she could lead as well as any man, she hid her fear and despair, remaining steadfast for her people. But the land was dry and unforgiving. The meager crops withered, livestock grew lean and sickly. Nala rationed their dwindling food, but hunger carved hollows in the children's cheeks. She tossed restlessly at night, desperate to save her people. One morning, Curia took Nala's hand. "My child, I had a vision," she said. "High in the mountains is a cave filled with magic that could make our land fertile again. You must seek it out." Hope flickered in Nala's chest. The next dawn, she set off alone into the forbidding mountains. She climbed 4 days over razor-edged peaks. At night, she huddled in caves, tormented by doubts and bone-numbing cold. She called on the spirits of her ancestors to guide her. Finally, she spotted a narrow crevice between 2 cliffs. Squeezing inside, she discovered a glowing green cave decorated with ancient paintings. Her eyes were drawn to a glimmering jewel upon a rock. As she reached for it, blinding emerald light filled the cave. Nala shielded her eyes, feeling a strange, tingling energy. When the light faded, Nala found herself in a mist-covered forest echoing with bellows and shrieks. Giant reptilian creatures with leathery skin and horrible teeth crashed through the underbrush. Dinosaurs. Nala realized in shock that the magic cave had sent her thousands of years into the past. She took off running as a Tyrannosaurus Rex thundered after her. Finding a crevice too narrow for the giant beast, she squeezed inside, gasping for breath. How would she ever get back home? Wandering the primeval forest, she foraged for fruit, careful to avoid predators. One afternoon she came upon a baby brontosaurus crying pitifully, its foot ensnared in a vine. Glancing warily for threats, Nala crept over and gnawed through the vine, freeing the little dinosaur. It nuzzled her in gratitude. Just then, the ground shook. An enormous brontosaur suddenly emerged from the trees. Nala's eyes widened in terror at the massive creature. It could crush her instantly, but instead it made a gentle rumbling sound, touching its snout to the baby. To Nala's astonishment, the mother dinosaur even allowed her to pet its leathery skin. The baby hopped around her playfully. Perhaps dinosaurs were not the vicious killers Nala imagined. Each day, the dinosaur family welcomed Nala, bringing her juicy fruit and alerting her to predators. At night, they curled protectively around her to keep her warm. Their kindness and gentleness amazed Nala. The more time she spent with them, the more her fear melted away. She gradually understood their hoots, growls and screeches as a language. Using a stick to draw shapes in the dirt, She was able to explain to them where she came from and how she'd arrived in their world. They listened intently, rumbling in empathy. One morning, the older brontosaurus led Nala through soaring trees until they came to a clearing. A massive, gnarled dinosaur with grey scales and spikes sat waiting, studying Nala with ancient yellow eyes. The older dinosaur spoke, making motions with its head toward Nala. To her astonishment, the ancient one replied in broken but clear words. "Greetings, curious human. I am Umber, keeper of ancient knowledge. Why have you come?" Nala knelt respectfully. "Please, wise Umber, I am lost here. I must find a way home to save my people, or they will perish." Umber nodded slowly, blinking his huge eyes. "Your courage and kindness have proven your spirit, young one. I will show you the way." He explained that beyond the great volcano lay a cave portal linked to the magic one, which brought Nala here, but reaching it required a perilous journey across harsh lands. Umber gave her directions and a satchel of herbs to sustain her. At sunrise, after tearfully hugging her dinosaur family, Nala set off alone. She traversed scorched plains, relying on the herbs for nourishment. Geysers spouted boiling water, and ash rained from the sky. Rivers of lava flowed around her, the air shimmering with heat waves. One misstep would mean certain death. Nala recalled her beloved village, using her yearning to see it again as fuel to push on. After weeks of grueling trekking, she reached the cave high in the mountains. The glowing jewel waited within. This time, Nala held the jewel firmly as blazing light engulfed her. When it faded, she tumbled onto the familiar cave floor of her home, the magical jewel still gripped in her fist. It had worked. Nala rushed back to the village. Jubilant cries rang out as people flocked to embrace her. Overwhelmed she was alive. "I have returned with the power to heal our land," Nala proclaimed. First, she poured clean water from the magic jewel over the barren soil. Green shoots began unfurling before their eyes. Next she held it to the sky, releasing clouds that burst into glorious rain, renewing the streams. Life exploded across the land over the following days. Their crops swelled heavier than ever before. At last the day came for the first harvest feast since the volcano. Nala's heart swelled as laughter and singing filled the village once more. She thought fondly of her dinosaur family from long ago. Perhaps one day she would return to share her people's joy with them. But for now, she was home, her people prosperous and happy. As Chief Bokamoso's heir, she would lead Moyo to become the strongest, most abundant village in all the land. When she one day became chief, Nala knew she would rule with the wisdom and benevolence she had learned from the dinosaurs. Though they were from different worlds, they were still kindred spirits. Nala gazed out with pride at the bountiful crops, smoke curling pleasantly from the festive fires. Moyo's people had been tested by tragedy, but emerged stronger and bound closer than ever before. This was a joyful new beginning.